Hey there, my name is Alex, I am the Silver Mont, and in this video I am going to review Back for Blood, played on PC, developed by Turtle Rock, the same studio who brought us Left 4 Dead, the original horde shooter, you might say. And if you've played Left 4 Dead, then, well, you know how Back for Blood is going to work. Quick premise, zombies everywhere. But we don't call them zombies because we're never allowed to call things zombies, they have to be infected or walkers or ridden or you name it. Each level is a short run from safe room to safe room, with 4 human characters. The game, of course, being designed around 4-player co-op. You can carry 2 weapons, and then there's a few tools. One slot for grenades or other similar projectiles, another slot for healing items, such as pills, bandages, and whatnot, and a final slot for utility, razor wire, ammo pouches, tools to open locked doors, and so on. As someone who has hundreds of hours in Left 4 Dead, much of this review will be comparing Back 4 Blood with that title. If you want quick thoughts on the game though, well, it's fun enough to play through with friends, but you're better off playing Left 4 Dead, in theory. You see, even if this is the same studio who brought us Left 4 Dead, it isn't necessarily the same people. And that shows, because Back 4 Blood is honestly inferior to Left 4 Dead in most important aspects. And I'll start with the 2 most egregious ones. Horde density. The whole point of a game like this is that zombies should be everywhere. Not all the time, of course. You know, there's an ebb and a flow, and when a horde comes, it should feel like a legitimate threat, right? Or at least there should be lots and lots of zombies. And yet sometimes hordes in Back 4 Blood will consist of about 10 zombies who don't even all come at you at once. On that note, the difficulty is completely nuts, ranging from trivial to almost impossible. The balance, well, there isn't any balance. Left 4 Dead had a much better flow with the AI director system working to keep things going. There was a flow to it, there were moments of quiet, and then all-out chaos as zombies popped up everywhere. And they spawned a lot better in that game too. Zombies in Back 4 Blood will sometimes just spawn or despawn as you are looking at them for some reason. And a lot of the time you'll be dealing with a mere handful of zombies, which is mindless, but then sometimes the special infected show up, and they're not called special infected, whatever they are in this game. They can be kind of bullet spongy with weak points, but these weak points don't really make sense because of how the enemies will be pivoting and targeting specific people, and the design just feels a bit misguided. Then we have the characters. A large part of the charm in Left 4 Dead, right, is how fun the survivors are. They all have some personality and there's great banter. This is something that Vermintide, another Left 4 Dead style game, got right. In fact, Vermintide didn't just get it right, I would say it surpassed Left 4 Dead in having even better characters and even better dialogue between them. Back 4 Blood's characters, meanwhile, are bad. Let me try and explain them to you to the best of my ability. There is a boomer with daddy issues who I played as. There's a woman. There's an asshole woman. There's a man who was maybe in the military. There's a man who used to be a hunter whose voice seems to fluctuate between sounding like a 70-year-old and a 30-year-old, seemingly at random. There's an old woman. There's a guy with stupid hair. That's about all I can tell you in regards to them. Personality-wise, they sucked. They didn't have real personalities. Dialogue was bad. There was no interesting or memorable conversations, no memorable lines, nothing entertaining, nothing amusing. Conversely, I haven't played Vermintide in ages, yet me and my friends can still quote that game on the regular. I mean, we do quote it on the regular. Up the stairs, down the stairs, twice the glory, double the discipline, toasty warm footsteps, Holy Sigma bless this ravaged body, and so on. Back 4 Blood, its characters are usually just annoying more than anything. But all of this isn't to say Back 4 Blood's a terrible game. It's just an inferior version of Left 4 Dead. It tries to differentiate itself from that game by having a longer campaign, which is certainly nice, but at the end of the day, whether it's a 2-hour campaign or an 8-hour campaign doesn't really matter in a game like this, because the goal is to replay these levels again and again. They're meant to be infinitely replayable because, you know, AI director and just fun gameplay. But I have no real desire, frankly, to replay this game. I've played through No Mercy hundreds of times, I'm already bored of going through Back 4 Blood's first level after 3 or 4 runs, and there are no levels really in particular that I want to go and play through again. One big change would be the card system. Effectively, you build a stack of cards that have various abilities or stat boosts on, and you unlock more throughout the game by playing it and, buying them and all that. Then at the start of every level, you can pick one at random or semi-random to add. It's fine, but if you removed it from the game, you wouldn't really notice its absence. Because 90% of the cards are just things like +1 more health or +5 more stamina, tiny stat changes that feel largely irrelevant. There are some interesting ones that actually change up the playstyle a little, but the concept of this card system has been severely underutilized. A lot of games still seem to be stuck in the sort of World of Warcraft 2005 mindset, where do you remember talent trees in 2005 in World of Warcraft? They were like 1% more damage or 0.1% more stun on Hammer of Justice. They got rid of that years ago in World of Warcraft and replaced it with the talent system that actually kind of meant something. But a lot of games are still kind of in that mindset where your choices give you tiny stat changes that really you're not going to notice them. Beyond that, we have a gun system that is more loot-based, shall we say. For example, you can find guns throughout the levels, but then you also find attachments, which have the now standard blue, purple, gold rarity system. This is again fine in concept, but pointless in gameplay. Most attachments won't give you any reasonable, discernible difference. That legendary stock you just found and stuck on your rifle isn't really going to be all that noticeable, so why does it exist at all? Now, of course, some attachments are noticeable, like the laser pointer does kind of change how your gun feels, and, the scopes obviously make more of a difference. But a lot of these things, they're just stat boosts that don't really come across to the player. That's my main issue with Back 4 Blood. Most of the things to separate it from Left 4 Dead are relatively pointless. And they go like, oh, this thing is like a boomer and a something else combined. But why? If you're gonna copy a boomer, just make it a boomer. The boomer was fine how it worked, And honestly, I can't even remember any of the names of the infected. There's like an ogre, which is a boss. And I swear sometimes the characters have like 3 different names for the same thing, but whatever. The sound effects for the guns really suck. There's not enough kick. A lot of them sound like they're underwater, or it's like pew pew pew. The sound of a gun is very important in a video game, in my opinion. However, whilst the sound effects for the guns are awful, the reload animations and the gun handling, like, the kick, the feedback, anything that isn't to do with the sound of the guns is fine. Personally, I also really love the way when you are crouched and, aiming your gun, you will sort of turn it sideways. There's probably a professional or real term for that sort of, I don't know, stance or grip. I don't know. I don't know anything about guns other than what they sound like in video games. But either way, it's very satisfying the way they feel, just not the way they sound. The gameplay feels good enough. It definitely takes a bit of getting used to sometimes, but it's not bad. It just takes a few moments to adjust to the sort of feel. It's quite arcadey. But this game is fairly early in its life cycle. It only came out a few months ago, and I'm hoping the developers will continue to improve upon it in the months to come. Frankly, when it launched, I feel like it was 6 months away from being launch worthy. Felt like early access. And this is a game, by the way, that I played back in a closed beta quite a long time ago. Back then, the balance was even worse. Like, we couldn't beat the first level because it was just constant, non-stop zombies all the time. And then it kind of went the other way. The whole AI director just feels like it needs a lot of tuning to make it, well, better. One thing I also have to point out, I don't even know how to describe what I'm trying to explain here. Not the levels themselves, but how they save and how you progress and how you continue. Let's say you play through 3 levels, you quit, then you want to start up again from where you were. It's like, it kind of saves where you were, but then it also kind of doesn't. Sometimes you have to like start a new one, but not a new one. Sometimes you can start from the same levels, but you don't have the same items because your items kind of carry over, but sometimes they don't carry over. And honestly, I don't understand any of it. Now, to be fair, I was never hosting. My friend, we were always playing together. He would host, I would join him. And then, he would try and continue, and it was really bizarre and didn't seem very logical or consistent, and just kind of the menus were baffling at times, compared to, Left 4 Dead, where it's very simple to start up any map or whatever you want to do. That, combined with many other small things, they just start to pile up to make the game frustrating when it's such a simple concept. You and friends move from point A to point B and you fight a lot of zombies. Take the bosses, for example. There's these super massive boss enemies called ogres. They show up, but half the time, after you damage them enough, they just instantly leave. They just like dive into the floor, and it's like, okay, what was the point of that? Why did we even bother shooting it if it was just going to leave? Why did it even just show up? If a boss shows up and then leaves again moments later, why is the boss there in the first place? What purpose did it serve? It's another case of, why is this happening? A boss showing up should always have a clear purpose, not pop up and go, "Hi everyone, anything happening today?" and then leave 5 seconds later. Overall though, it is a fun game to play. I wouldn't suggest paying full price for it, $60 or $50 or $40 or $30. When it comes down to $20, yeah, maybe that is kind of the spot. But right now, they're asking too much for a game that is half broken and inferior to a game that's like 10 years older. We played it on the PC Xbox Game Pass thing, which feels like the only way I could justify paying any amount of money for it in its current state. I am hoping the developers stick with it though. I believe the developers had another game a few years ago called something like Evolve, which had a interesting concept, but I seem to remember they just kind of ditched that game and never fixed it. Hopefully they don't do the same thing with Back 4 Blood, and hopefully down the line we'll have a game that's not just as good as Left 4 Dead, but superior. Now, see, the main reason I am not saying just go and play Left 4 Dead is because Left 4 Dead, last time I played it, had a community patch, like a patch developed, or not developed, directed by members of the community, and it kind of ruined the game because it was catering towards like hardcore PvP people, and that was a terrible decision, in my opinion. But hey, there is room right now. There is a market for this kind of horde shooter game. Vermintide is fun until you reach like the hardcore levels of play where it becomes obnoxious because the developers for Vermintide are out of their minds and seem to absolutely despise the players and always want to punish them for some reason. So I was hoping, Back 4 Blood, that would be the new one. It wasn't. So there is room here, and I'm hoping Back 4 Blood will progress and develop into the game that it should be. Because a lot of these things are really easy fixes. The sound effect for guns and all that. Now the characters, that's a bit harder, but you can develop them over time, like add new stuff, give them more of a personality, maybe hire some real writers and stop using the writers you have right now, because I'm sorry, but they don't seem to know how to write for video games. Writing for video games, by the way, is very different to writing for a movie or a TV series or a book. Maybe go hire the people who were writing in Vermintide, because they absolutely nailed it in that game. But, well, that about does it for this video. I could keep ranting, but I won't. In summary, Back 4 Blood, it's a fun game if you're playing with friends, but it needs a lot of work before it's worth anything close to a full price tag. Until next time, thank you so much for watching, and have a good one. Ciao.